This week, episode 278 of Stogie Geeks, we interview Barry MacDonald from the D.P.E. Ehrlich Cigar Company. Live in studio, Barry is right here, and we also have a guest appearance by none other than Mike Bellady from MLB Cigar Ventures. It's going to be a great show.
Thank you, Joe.
This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geeks Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geeks Show. Joe and I are already silly.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Hosempa, a.k.a. Joe Hollywood, is here with me in studio.
I'm fired up.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Welcome to episode 278 of Stogie Geeks. I am Joe Hollywood, a.k.a. Joe Hosempa of Stogie Geeks. I'm your host this week. We have live in studio Barry MacDonald from D.P.E. Ehrlich Cigar. We are going to learn about the foundation, the story of the cigar, and an interesting story of how D.P.E. Ehrlich got started. And we also have Mike Bellady, none other from MLB Cigar Ventures, a true friend of mine. How you doing, Mike?
I'm great. Glad to be back.
Yes, we poured some wine. So we have our red wine over here, and
and white wine.
And white wine. Barry, how you doing?
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having us. We
guys,
appreciate it.
Oh, no, thanks for coming. I haven't, usually I see the both of you from my travels here in the Northeast at least bi-weekly. Right. And lately, you guys have been on the road. So we're going to talk a little bit about that there. Sure. It's not that I'm counting the days, Mike, but it was about Thanksgiving was the last time that I've actually...
Is that right?
Yeah, that I've actually physically seen you, yes.
Wow, yeah. A lot of travel.
Like my wife.
Speaking to you on the phone was February. Getting communications through Barry, it was a lot easier. So
yeah. My life is not very available.
If you're looking for Mike Bellady, just give Barry a call. You'll be able.
I can point you in the right direction, Joe.
You'll be able to
and
find him.
if it's before midnight, I'll be awake and he'll be driving.
Forget about it. A lot of lonely rides late at night, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Mike, near and dear friend, if I talk about you at least on an every other episode basis. Just,
great.
From a personal standpoint, when I started Cigar Club Radio, you were my first cigar sponsor.
Yeah.
There.
Wow. And I was on your last show ever.
Yeah, that was...
and actually on that show predicted it would be the last show ever. I don't know what happened there.
That's pretty crazy. You know, that's pretty crazy. So, I want to thank you for that because apparently I got the attention of Paul Azadorian there. And then January 2nd of 2017, I came on as co-host of Stogie Geeks, and it's been an interesting ride since then, for sure.
Absolutely.
I get a chance to meet so many fascinating people within the industry and keep a podcast going. It's a good time.
You enjoy it, I can tell.
I do enjoy it. I have. I'm very frustrated today, though, on a couple of reasons. But what I don't like, two things: industry, and we can get to this later on.
This will be good.
In industry, why is it that everyone wants to talk to me at IPCPR? Like, don't they understand that we it's like companies that we have interviews. We don't do our interviews on IPCPR's time. We're every week, every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, unless Barry and Mike come into town, then it's
1:30.
It's 1:38, right?
Earlier.
It's 1:38.
In our defense, we got back from an event last night around 3 a.m.
Yeah, 3:10 I got in.
And it's the life of the cigar.
That's true. That's true. So we're going to get to all of that and where you guys have been and stuff like that. But this interview, want to take time to showcase the D.P.E. Ehrlich brand.
Correct.
And would love the opportunity. You've come on the show. You've talked a little bit about the stick there. Right. But really wanted to take the opportunity to showcase the brand, tell us the story, how it got started, even way back when, if you can share some of the stuff that we spoke offline there.
Sure.
How your family got started there, and take us through this journey, and then you meet Mike, which is another journey within itself,
Right,
I'm sure.
right,
You
right.
know?
Over 20 years ago. Man.
Yeah. Back, I met Mike in 1996. But my introduction to the
Just so you know, Barry, your camera's the one right in the middle.
okay, my introduction to the tobacco business was through my dad. My father came out of the department store business, and the Ehrlich family owned a retail women's apparel business called Terrain Stores. So my father in 1973 interviewed with the Ehrlich family for a position with Terrain Stores, and for some reason, it wasn't a good match, and the job didn't pan out. But at the end of the interview, William Ehrlich, who was the nephew of D.P.E. Ehrlich, said, we have another opportunity you might be interested in. We have these a couple of tobacco stores that you might want to take a look at. And that was in 1973, and that's basically how my father got involved. He went out and looked at the stores, and the Ehrlich family, the two nephews, William and Richard, hired my father as the general manager. And at that time, we had two stores, the Tremont Street store, which we have the first line, D.P.E. Ehrlich Tremont cigar, we launched in 2016. And another store, Levitt and Pierce, which is still a going concern today. My brother, Paul, runs that store. So that was in 1973, and my family has been associated with the Ehrlich name since. My father ran that store with my mother. At one point, we had 6 locations. We had a store in Government Center, Levitt and Pierce. Believe it or not, we had a tobacco shop inside of Kennedy's department store in downtown Crossing.
Yeah.
Which today would be, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
We also had a store in Lincoln, Rhode Island, Copley Square, and Greenwich, Connecticut.
No kidding. Yeah.
Back in the day. But of course, this was back in most of those stores, we went from 2 to 6 in the 1980s. And then for various reasons, a few of the stores didn't work out, the particular market. And, the landscape of the cigar industry and the tobacco industry back then was totally different than it was now. I mean, there wasn't any presence of boutique companies the way there are today.
Right.
But I started working while I was in college in the 80s for my father part-time at Tremont Street, and then came on full-time in 1995 and worked side by side with my father up until 2001 when he passed away. And then I continued I took over the business and ran the business up until 2013, and that's about the time that I met Mike. When we actually closed a store that we had down in the Faneuil Hall area, Boston. Due to a number of reasons. We had a lease issue that had expired, and we couldn't transfer the smoking permit to a new location. So it sort of opened up another...
to the Board of Health of the City of Boston.
Yeah, sure. But it was great because it opened up another opportunity, and Mike at the time was just in the very early stages of developing MLB and working on the first line, which was the Imperial Blue label. And I knew I wanted to get involved with Mike, and I saw down the road that there might be an opportunity to take the David Ehrlich brand and bring it to the private market, which we have since done. So that's sort of a little bit of a history of my beginning and how I got involved in the business.
Yeah, in the early stages of your story, it's amazing. I was doing some work for another client in the tobacco industry, and he said a word, Abercrombie and Finch, and he said, and I says, okay, and he's like, I want to include this, and I'm like, the Abercrombie, and I found it amazing that a clothing store, or Abercrombie and Finch, which was a sporting goods store at the time, had tobacco right in the middle of it, and they blended it for exclusively for this store, and you were able to do some shopping and have some tobacco while your counterpart is shopping.
Yeah,
maybe could be a reason why the divorce rate was a lot
lower. Yeah, a lot lower.
It was a lot lower because you can sit in the chair
and most shopping malls had a tobacco shop in them too back then.
Right.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Supermarkets had them, and C.B. Perkins was started in supermarkets.
Right. I mean, I remember going to Kennedy's where we had a small store. It was a glassed-in store in the men's department. And I'd go in, and people would be smoked. Back then, there was a lot of pipe smokers, and, people smoked cigars as well. But I'd go inside the small shop, and there'd be people outside looking at suits, trying on things. And it was just, you think of that today, and it's like, surreal that
It is.
that could, be something that happened back then. But times have changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, definitely. Even
in terms of the whole smoking and, how you operate a retail business.
Yeah, even in my scope of my smoking path, if you will,
right?
It have changed. I remember after 10 o'clock in the Providence Metro, you would be able to have cigars. And go in and have appetizers, and they would have the late menu, and it was great. I mean, we would close the cigar shop at 10. Ironically, we used to close at 11.
Yeah.
Until we could find out that we could smoke in places, especially in the summertime. We'd walk down to Hemingway's in Providence, and because we were right there over on Wickenden Street. It's a hop, skip, and a jump, and you go and you have cigars, and people from the shop came, and it just kind of continued the evening. And
well, I remember when I got involved full time with the business in 1995. It was sort of right in the center of the cigar boom, and smoking was allowed everywhere. I mean, we used to sell cigars to a number of different steakhouses like Capitol Grill, Morton's, Grill 23, and I was doing cigar dinners all over the city of Boston. I mean, 3, 4, 5 a month. And it was great. Mike and I were just when we were in Dallas for the PLM launch. We had dinner at a place called Chamberlain's in Fort Worth, and it was
That's in Dallas.
Oh, was that in Dallas?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But they had a beautiful restaurant, but they had a cigar lounge, and we actually ate right in the cigar lounge at a table.
Brought me back to the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just fantastic.
I tell people offline, I don't think I've ever said this story here on Stogie Geeks. I met Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams at McFadden's in Baltimore from smoking cigars. And again, it was after 10 o'clock. We ate, cut light, and all of a sudden I see these people like crowding my table.
You're like, wow, I'm famous.
No, here I am sitting in the middle of McFadden's.
Jojo pulled out one of the 5 different colored Sharpies he had on him, just to be prepared.
Right, and I'm sitting there, and people are like filing, like they're getting close, and I'm like what the heck? And I take my eating very seriously, so I was eating, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings. So when I finally cut my cigar,
I just censored myself there. And you're
that's cool. That's cool.
Go ahead.
Right? So when I cut my cigar and I look to my left and I see the next table over is Derek Jeter and Bernie Williams, and I was like, oh wow. I was like, you want a cigar? Bernie took one. But and it was like, yeah, he didn't smoke one, but he did one. And of course, it was like, and that was Baltimore. 2002, right? 2002, and
you could smoke in Baltimore pretty much everywhere in 2002.
Yeah, and it was crazy, because I remember seeing the Yankees at the the World Series in right after 9/11, so it was 2001,
right?
And then we got a chance to. We were pricing Yankee tickets. I'm like, let's go to Baltimore and see him at Camden. That'd be so random, right? Day of game tickets, $15.
Unbelievable.
Like 7 rows up from third baseline.
Yeah. What would those tickets cost today?
Probably $22 versus, seriously, it's kind of crazy. Whenever, the Red Sox or the Yankees play in Camden Yards, that's like their money maker.
Right.
Have you ever been to Camden Yards?
No, I never have.
Let me tell you something. If you dropped a potato chip, you would eat it. Like it's so clean.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I hear it's a beautiful ballpark.
I love Baltimore. Have you ever been to Baltimore in your travels? Baltimore, right? You get the you get the southern charm,
right,
with the northern hustle and bustle. Because if you go below, I've been in some sketchy sections.
I was just gonna say. Let me tell you something.
Wait, I wasn't finished.
All right, go ahead.
I wasn't finished. I wasn't finished. I remember, going down to. I skateboarded till I was 37. So
no kidding.
like vert and whatchamacallit, went to Bucky Lassick, which was like Tony Hawk's protege.
Yeah.
I went to like his home skate park. So I just Googled the address.
Right.
Well, just FYI, GPS does not speak ghetto.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
So it has us driving all through the thing, and
Wow.
I'm like, wow, this neighborhood really changed.
Yeah.
You know,
Not
But,
good.
Yeah. So it was crazy. You know.
Baltimore's got some beautiful areas.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
sort of like Hartford, right?
No, Hartford has no beautiful areas.
You know. So you have a release party tonight.
Correct. Yeah.
Locally over at Churchill Smoke Shop and Lounge.
In East Providence,
Yes.
correct. Yeah,
It's
we
gonna
do.
be a pig roast, and I know that the local crew there is definitely looking forward to not only seeing you guys, but to trying the new stick.
We always have a great time when we hang out with Brian over at Churchill. So, yeah, we launched the PLM series in Fort Worth at the Underground on June 9th, and that was highly successful. The response to the cigar has been tremendous. And now we're back in New England, and we had an event last night down in Danbury with Kevin Page and Buttheads, and tonight with Brian at Churchill's, and then tomorrow night at Puros with Leo. So, yeah, moving right along with it, but overall the response has been positive.
Now, before we get to the actual blend, business question: when you launched the Tremont,
Right.
you launched it at the 2016 IPCPR.
Correct.
Okay. What made you decide to have a launch a couple weeks just before IPCPR?
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, I mean,
Please
the way we
please
scheduled
do.
it was...
I've actually done this before. We did the Aventador last year. We did a launch before the trade show, but really did the full launch at the trade show.
Right.
So we wanted to do a launch with the Underground Cigar Shop down in Fort Worth before the trade show, get it on the market, and then we're doing several local events here. But it's
Yeah.
really not fully being launched till the trade show. It is a new cigar at the trade show, but some of our key retailers in this market, as well as the Underground, who's a great supporter of ours down in Fort Worth,
Absolutely.
we wanted to make sure they got it first.
Right.
It speaks to the testament of you guys, right? Like, those are the companies that when, you're out there as a boutique cigar at first, right? You'll start boutique cigar.
Yes.
And you go out there and you wanted to kind of, schedule it, or I don't know if
Yeah.
it worked out that way, and just say, hey, you can get it in your shop before. And
Well, we wanted to build a little traction with it, too, prior
Yeah.
to the show, I think is what Mike's alluding to.
Yeah, and the buzz has really been crazy. I mean, this is the fifth blend that we've put out between the Imperia and David P. Ehrlich, and of all the blends that we've released, this one right out of the gate, the response has been almost overwhelming. I mean, I literally received my factory order on this at our warehouse days before we had to ship it out to the Underground for the event.
Right.
And I've already placed a second factory order. And we haven't really fully released it yet.
right.
I mean,
right.
it's only been released to 6 or 7
Yeah.
stores.
right.
5 or 6,
And
yeah.
I'm worried we're going to have back orders at the show. I mean, so I placed another order, sizable order, because I don't like back ordering people. So
Yeah.
it's pretty unbelievable what's been happening. I mean, several stores that have gotten it in since the Underground was the first store to have it.
Right.
That was my promise to them. They got it first. They're already pretty much out. And
I
their
think
order,
they are.
Their order
Yes.
was sizable.
Right.
And that was a week and a half ago. And then just the small 5 or 6, 7 other stores that we've sent it to, I got worried about the inventory levels already, and it's being moved, and we're expecting repeat orders from those stores already.
Right.
We'll go to Churchill's tonight. I'd be shocked if there's much left after tonight.
Yeah.
Of what Churchill's ordered.
Yeah, it's the Churchill's gang has been asking for you anyway. So I know that, like,
Yeah,
I have not been there within the past 3 weeks, and it's been, I walked in and they're like, where have you been? And it's just
it's
scheduling,
great.
and they're like, where's Bellady? I'm like,
The thing is when I started my company, I had the Blue Label Imperia only, and I only released it in the Northeast,
Right.
mostly New England. So I was in all the stores all the time, right? And then I started to branch out to various regions around the country, and now we're fully national. And it's been really kind of a whirlwind tour, as you can imagine. And so I remember, I go into Churchill's after a while, and I always get somebody that's there will say, look who decided to show up.
Right. Yeah.
Where the hell have you been?
Right,
and it's
right.
like, I would, if when I'm home, I always make it a point to get to Churchill's and to.
Yeah,
that
that is generally what they say when you walk in.
Yeah, no,
there.
it is.
Look who just walked in.
And I love those guys.
Yeah.
There are certain shops around the country that I have. I love all my retail partners, but there are certain shops that I actually consider my home shops. Churchill's is my home shop in Rhode Island. There's no question about that. In Texas, it's the Underground.
No doubt.
And I don't want to run through all the regions, but I have that one shop that I go to every time I'm in that area. And Churchill's is that for me here. I consider them, really close friends, family. And Brian's been great. And
the Underground is just a totally different animal altogether. I mean, it's
speaking of the Underground, right? I don't know if you've heard rumor to the fact yet, but I didn't discuss this with you, but I know you would be in. I said, oh yeah, Bellity's in totally, right? So I booked an appointment for you. I'm working on post IPCPR. Don Wiggins to Skype in. You either be in studio or Skype in, depending on your schedule.
Oh, that's going to be wonderful.
And I guess they also did another release for the Hiram Solomon gentlemen too.
Yes.
From them too. They just did a release there too.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. And I don't know how that's going to work show wise and logistically.
Well, listen, I will tell you this. If Don Wiggins is going to be on this show one way or the other, I'm going to be on the show.
Of course you are.
But yeah,
I will change my schedule however it has to be changed.
Yeah.
And I will be on the show with Don Wiggins.
Yeah,
If I'm not local, I'll be in studio. If I'm not local, I will Skype in or do whatever needs to be done.
Yeah. And I'm because I can't wait to get someone like Don on the show and talk the business of boutiques.
Yeah.
Right?
He's the man to do it.
Because from my perspective, I have the opportunity to interview, every Friday someone from a bigger company. Like next week we have General Cigar scheduled, right?
Well, it's great.
It's going to be a different conversation.
Right. He had a shirt made down there, and it says, "Why be general when you can be boutique?"
I'm not sure he wants that out there. Really, but all right.
Well, it's out now, right?
Well, I'm not implying it's.
No, of course you're not. It was just a segue after you mentioned General. Had nothing to do with General. I got it.
It's all good.
All right, but
it's all good.
Here's what I will tell you. From the retailer side of things, there's nothing like the Underground anywhere I've seen anywhere. And I've said this numerous times. I mean, it is the culture that was created there, the fact that they move the type of product that they move, the amount of product they move out of that little shop.
It's amazing.
In a part of Fort Worth that isn't the nicest part of Fort Worth is unbelievable. And there's nobody on the retail side of this industry that can talk about how to build a boutique retail establishment better than Don Wiggins.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
There are some others that are very good at it, but they are legitimately straight boutique. And well, almost. They have a leaf in there too, but other than that, they are straight boutique, and nobody does boutique like the Underground. Period.
I agree.
Yeah, they have some stuff, from a Stogie Geek, a true Stogie Geek perspective, where it's like sticks that I don't want to say I've been chasing, but looking for and thinking, okay, I can wait to. I'm a patient person to get the product here because I really want to support the local business.
Right.
But I'm an impatient person once the stick is in my hands. I can't tell you how many times people have given us. They've come to Stogie Geeks for an interview, or they ship the cigars before the interview and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I already smoked everything you gave me, and being like, well, that's coming out in IPCPR. Like we smoked one from HR.
Right.
That is was that Spencer Drake? Is that off the top of my head? Yeah, Spencer, right? So, and I'm like, oh yeah, I smoked that. He's like, that's coming out like in this IPCPR. And I was like, yeah, it's great. I like it. You should probably roll with that. He's like, oh, good, because we are.
That decision's been made.
Regardless of Stogie Geeks, right? But it's and then some of the listeners will email me, and they're like, how come you didn't save it or whatnot? Me, there's no better time like today to enjoy it.
Of course.
To try something new. Right. He's got some pretty interesting sticks because I'm on his list and I see it. I'm like, wow. I'm like, the Northeast should get on this, because I truly believe that there is a place for the classic facings, and I don't want to take anything away from them. But like this Nicaraguan boom or this boutique boom, it's really here to stay.
Right, and I would tell you that there's a place in every market in America has a place for an underground type shop that is straight boutique. Mm-hmm. And if somebody actually did it, they would kill it here.
Sure.
If they were we're only boutique retailer in Rhode Island, they'd kill it.
Yeah.
Because there is no such thing. You know, Churchill's is the closest thing to it.
Yes.
In Rhode Island.
Yep.
And they do it really well, and they have a loyal following,
right,
for a lot of reasons, but that's one of the reasons, right? Mm-hmm. But if there was, and I don't, you know, there's a place in Nashville called Smokers Abbey. There's another place in Austin, Texas called Smokers Abbey. They're sort of affiliated, but not really. But they do straight boutique.
Yeah.
And in Nashville, if people want straight boutique, they know that's where I go. Mm-hmm. I want the latest new boutique that I haven't heard of maybe yet. I'm going to Smokers Abbey. Mm-hmm. Right. There's a market for that.
Yeah, you know, there truly is a market for that. A couple of probably 10 or 11 episodes back, to a testament, we interviewed a cigar shop about the size of Churchill's, right? Mm-hmm. And they only sell what they roll. And across the street, diagonally across the street, is a regular cigar shop. And you know something? It's just as busy. So I know that's a little extreme when you talk about that, but you look at the business model, because people are like, wow, like, you know, and if you go there, say on a calendar year, you'll have something different throughout the year, because it's what they roll and then do that there. And you know, and I truly think that, you know, there is a little bit of Stogie Geek in all of us, for sure.
Of course.
You know, especially, you know, not just the weekend warriors who smoke cigars.
But they have a nice mix, you know, I mean, as a retailer, you know, having some boutiques in the humidor, along with some of the other staple brands, the Padrones, Perdomos, you know, Ashton.
Rockies,
whatever. Yeah. It just, for a consumer, it's just so much better. You know, they can walk in, especially someone that does have an interest in boutique cigars.
But I think that the newer smokers want boutique more than they want non-boutique. And, you know, so there's definitely a growing market for the boutique companies. That's why there's so many boutique cigars that have come out in the last 4, 5, 6 years.
Right, and I also think that with the consumer, because of the technological aspect to the marketing, right? Besides social media, you know, you can now, you know, geographically order from a shop if that shop even decides to go that route. You know, it helps them you know, it expands their market to just anyone who can just walk in the shop.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you can do that there. So where does David P. Ehrlich fit in all of this?
We're really boutique.
No, I mean, well, you know, so how do you how do you look at, you know, positioning? You know, it's all about marketing and positioning, right? So, you know, you have your stick, which came out in 2016, the debut stick for the Ehrlich brand.
Correct.
The Tremont, right?
The Tremont,
Yep.
David Ehrlich
And then
Tremont.
now you have this PLM series.
Right.
Okay.
Which pays homage to my father, by the way. The PLM are the initials of my father, Paul Leo MacDonald.
That was my next question. How'd you come up with that with that name?
Yeah, so I mean, Mike and I talked about it, and we wanted to pay homage to the legacy of the store and his involvement in the store, and it just made sense. It's a nice story, you know, and so we agreed on that, and it's been great. I mean, so far.
How was it working in the store? Like, what was it? Can you give us like a visual
of
what it was like and what was in there?
Well, when I started working back in the 90s, there were really no boutique brands on the market. I mean, the cigar business, you had the, you know, Partagas, Macanudo, H. Upmann, Hoya de Monterey, Canary de Oro. There was a brand called Royal Jamaica back then. Monte Cruz.
I don't think they were around then.
And, you know, I went to my first trade show in 1995 in Cincinnati, and Rocky was just was at the show, and Indian Tobacco was the brand, and Bahia. You had a guy, Caribbean Cigar Company, Kevin Doyle, going way back. I mean, who was very hot at that show, but there really wasn't a presence of any boutiques unless you look at someone like Rocky starting out back then as maybe a boutique. But it was great. I mean, look I tell Mike this during the 90s there, from like 94 to 96, I'd show up at 9 in the morning at that store and there'd be a line of people outside waiting to get in.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because there was difficulty getting product. A lot of product was on back order, during the cigar boom. But people were, it was just, they were smoking anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And
there was a lot of bad cigars out there.
Oh, I remember brands like...
oh, easy now.
I know. Yeah, I know.
If they're gone, you can mention
I think I know what you were going to say.
I know. Well, I was going to... Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, there were some bad cigars out there.
Bad cigars out there, correct.
A lot of them.
Sure.
Yeah, but it was great. I was working side by side with my dad and my mom, and those were wonderful years. Great experience. I learned a lot, and a lot of history in that brand.
You really can't discount how historic the David P. Ehrlich company is in the cigar industry and in the tobacco industry as a whole.
Right.
I mean, one of the things we're doing now is we're going to bring back a lot of the old pipe tobacco blends that David P. Ehrlich had, and it's starting to happen right now. We're working with somebody to get that done. And we're going to probably have some samples at the show, but we have access to pipe tobacco blends that are over 100 years old.
That we want to bring back and
That are
continue the
they're
brand.
going
As pipe tobacco?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They're going to be brought back. It's happening.
Will that be done under the MLB
Yeah, we're
umbrella?
going to distribute
Okay.
it.
Right. Yep.
We'll distribute it. It'll be a partnership with Barry and I on that. But it's really historic. I mean, that store is the store that if you were in my prior business, I used to travel around the country. And if I went into New York and I walked into the Nat Sherman Townhouse and I went up there and they said, "Where are you from?" and I said, "I'm from Boston." The first thing that Joel Sherman at the time would say, yeah, sure.
Hey, how's that down?
Yeah.
First thing that Joel Sherman would say is, "Oh, you must go to the Ehrlich store." That's good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, for now.
It'll be a long day.
So, and it was that store. It's very historic. It's the second or third oldest tobacco store or retail establishment ever in the country.
Right.
And it's a shame that the city of Boston made a situation where it can't be there anymore. Now, hopefully someday that changes, and we will bring the store back if that happens. Because
It's always a possibility, yeah.
One of the reasons I really wanted to do the David P. Ehrlich cigar with Barry is that the first premium cigar I ever smoked, I bought at his store, his family store, in around 1996
96,
or so.
I think it was. That's when I first met Mike. He was a customer. He used to come in the store, and I used to sell cigars to him.
It is that historic, and we wanted to keep the brand alive. We want to bring the pipe tobacco back.
Right.
And we've done some sort of tests with the pipe tobacco, sending it to certain stores, and the feedback has been insane. So we're going to bring it back in a big way. We're doing the packaging and stuff right now.
Right.
But it's going to be, we're going to make the David P. Ehrlich brand a lifestyle brand. It's going to be more than cigars. It's going to be more than pipe tobacco. We have visions of doing other things with the brand that will happen over time. But it's going to be, the David P. Ehrlich brand is going to be alive and well for a really, really long time.
That's awesome. Yeah.
150 years this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to take that brand and to continue the branding with it, the name is rich in history. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That'd be really cool. Super cool if you could go through and open it in would it be the original location or original town?
No, I don't know that we're getting the original location, but it would be in the city of Boston.
That's cool.
If we can get it done, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a brand, the David Ehrlich brand, that's been associated with Boston for well over 100 years. I mean, it should be 150.
I mean, see, right there it says 1868.
I know. Well,
but I mean,
in 4 different locations.
I have no aspirations to be in the retail business.
Right.
I don't want to, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but I don't want to do the Burn by Rocky Patel in every city, or it's not what I want to do. But in the city of Boston, there needs to be a David P. Ehrlich tobacco store. It just has to be there, and we're going to make it happen if it's at all possible.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. That is awesome. Now, talk to us about this new blend.
So the new blend, like the Tremont, the filler binder, Nicaraguan, Esteli Condega, Esteli binder, and then the wrapper is a San Andreas wrapper. So we changed the wrapper from the Ecuadorian Sumatra to the San Andreas, but it's completely changed the flavor profile of the cigar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I still get some of that pepper and spice, but I also get notes of cocoa and more of a chocolatey type of flavor on my palate. But
It's the first Maduro cigar that I've ever done.
right, and I love this wrapper. I mean, I really do like the San Andreas wrapper.
It's
I mean,
tremendous.
What I've noticed, observation wise, fan of the Tremont. It's a lot. It's a very good go-to stick for me.
Right.
I like the Robusto and the Peter size for sure.
Well,
there. I've never had the Gordo size.
60?
Yeah, I've never had the 60.
Yeah.
I kind of shy away from the 60s anyway.
Yeah, me too.
But I smoke cigars frequently enough where I like the Robusto and the Peter size. And when I first had this stick a couple days ago,
right.
I noticed that initially I did get that blast of pepper in the beginning.
Yep.
Which familiarized myself with the Tremont, and then it settled right into the cocoa. But what I noticed on my palate, even today, is it tends to run a little bit what I call fresher and drier on the palate.
Yeah, you
in
told
a
me
good
that.
way.
You told me that the other day.
I told you
when
that
we were on the
offline,
phone,
where
right.
it's kind of like when you have you have a wine and you can taste it, and I know this says total Joeism, right? You would take a sip and it's like wet on your palate, but then you take a sip of a wine, different blend but same type,
Right.
and it becomes drier body. I think the body is a bit drier, and with that being said, to me it brings out more of the natural tobacco,
The flavors, yeah.
flavor,
Right.
as opposed to the pepper that I got
With the Tremont.
from the Tremont.
So various tobaccos different tobaccos will do two different things to your palate. Some dry your palate, some create saliva. I mean, San Andreas is not a saliva creating tobacco. It just isn't. If you look at the wrapper, it's a very rough wrapper.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
very grainy and gritty, and this is one of the less grainy and gritty San Andreas wrappers I've seen. But it's still a very gritty, toothy wrapper, and it's a dry wrapper. It's not a very oily wrapper. Whereas when you look at, for instance, the Blue Label Imperia, that's a very oily, shiny.
It's got a lot of sheen to it.
The Aventador, it's a Ecuador Habano, very oily, shiny. This is a drier wrapper. It just is. So that's why. So you're right. It does. It has a drying effect on you when you're smoking it, which creates a completely different smoking experience and a different flavor profile.
I lit it up with Brian, owner of Churchill's, and I go, "Ooh, it's dry." He goes, "Hey, there you go." There you go. I go, "No, it has to be."
That's the best Brian impersonation I've seen in a long time. That's exactly what he would say.
He's like, "There you go." I go, "No, seriously, it's
Right.
drier." He's like, "Jojo, people don't smoke cigars like you." Like, I was like, "No, if I had it, like, to me, every cigar has its place."
Well,
right?
that's what you're getting on your palate. That's
So
what
I'm like, it's got to be drier. And then what I've noticed that if we're on the subject of MLB stuff, the Aventador, that was the third one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So So the Aventador seems to run dry. You keep looking at your logos. I noticed.
No,
that.
I didn't look at the logo.
I thought every time the logo shows up, I see it.
I only saw it one time. There it is.
There it
That's
is,
my
right
box of
there.
cigars. There's the Aventador.
It looks great.
Right, so he's checking, right? He's checking on his logos.
Yeah.
Right.
While
But
he's talking to you.
Yeah, right. You know, always
Listen,
working.
I could look at you or I could look at the TV. I'm going to choose the TV.
Right.
You can
I'm
look at that TV. You can look at that TV. That sign, actually, is there a way you can pan that sign? Yeah, that sign.
Look at that. That's
Take
history
us,
right there.
Take us through
Well,
take us through because that is marketing and positioning.
I can't give you,
101.
I can't give you the actual age of that sign, but that sign is very, very old, and it was in the store on Tremont Street. We moved into that store in 1967, but I'm fairly certain that sign was around in the previous locations as well. So just, an old piece that I had when we closed the store, and
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I just love it. I
that
mean,
sign is history right
and
there.
I think Mike and I talked about this. That's probably what
That's the pipe tobacco
That's what we're
logo.
going to use with the pipe tobacco logo. It's just, the originality of that is just incredible.
I'm looking at the detail of the sign and think knowing a lot a bit about marketing and positioning and print cost. That's an expensive logo. You got a lot of moving pictures in there.
No, it's not any more expensive than this is.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. No, but I do like the detail for sure.
That's history.
Yeah.
And he's got another sign that we couldn't have brought it. We would need a
it's
box truck
it's
to bring
too
in there.
big. Yeah.
But it is unbelievable. I can send you a picture of it. It's really incredible. And we tried to keep. We're going to keep the branding of everything we do Ehrlich is going to be consistent with the history of the company. So when we did the band for the Tremont and for the PLM, we used the same primary band on both cigars, but we put a secondary band that says PLM for the PLM series.
Right.
That logo is really sort of a more modern logo, more version of that logo.
Right.
That was then used, that the Ehrlich company used after that one. The only change we made to it was we took the pipe out of the guy's mouth and put a cigar in his mouth because this is a cigar, not a pipe.
Right.
But there's so much history. If people just Google David.P. Ehrlich tobacco, and up will come stories and history and the history of the company, and it's unbelievable. It's one of the most historic tobacco brands ever.
And it was right here in the Northeast.
Yeah, and the city
Right
of Boston
downtown
decided
Boston.
they didn't want to support a company like that. But that's another issue.
Sure. Yeah. So you're going IPCPR in a couple weeks.
Correct.
What you excited?
No.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. Did I just say that? My Tourette's just kicked in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't mind the show. But Vegas. I'm not a gambler.
Sure.
I don't drink.
Yep.
I'm not into shows of any kind. So
So he's the opposite of Vegas. I mean, he likes nothing Vegas offers.
Yeah.
I would say this about the show. There are aspects I love about the show. And every cigar brand owner, even the major companies, will tell you the stuff that's going on leading up to the show, getting prepared and everything else, is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And especially for us this year, because Enrique Cejas from Matilde and I started our own distribution company. We used to be distributed through Casada, and we left and started our own distribution company on April 1st. So now we've got our own booth. Our booth kit's being built right now. Literally, it's 2 weeks from the show, basically, and the booth kit is now being built. So we're rushing to get all this stuff done. It's just a very crazy time. Once the show happens and I get to see people that I haven't seen since last show, or maybe I haven't seen much since last show, I love that part.
Yeah, that's the part I like.
I love seeing retailers that I only get to see 2 or 3 times a year, maybe, that I haven't seen that much. And I love interacting with other cigar people. I think all of that is wonderful. But there's a lot that goes into this show that is very stressful, very time-consuming. Right. And we're right in the midst of that right now. And we're launching a cigar, and we're doing all these events. And I'm like this morning, the reason we were a little bit late is, I had a firestorm hit me this morning. I won't get into the details. It's not that big deal. But it was like I was on the phone, and he's coming to my house at 11:30, and it's 11:15. I'm still on the phone. So it's a lot going on. But it's one of the things we have to do. The IPCPR hopefully is doing everything they can to help out the industry. I know there are people in the industry on both sides of that argument, but it's one of the things we have to do. And it's just I wish it wasn't so stressful. It didn't take so much work, and it takes a colossal amount of money too. So that I don't like either.
Yeah. On our end, some of because we're on episode 278 of Stogie Geeks, some of the older vendors of Stogie Geeks and some of the older interviewees and stuff like that, they're saying, "Oh well, we had scheduled this, in February to appear on Stogie Geeks." Just before IPCPR, so during the month of June. Right. And we've had a lot of, who booked this interview? Like, because some of the bigger companies, right, where I don't get the chance to, you speak to someone we're interviewing is different from someone who we're doing sponsorship talks with. And so, some of the, and they're like, why did they book it for just before IPCPR? Do you know how busy we are? How about if we just do what we did a couple years ago and send you a piece of paper. And I actually got a white paper today from a company who sponsors the show. And they're like, well, can you just read it? Like in Stogie Geeks News. I'm like, we're not a news desk. Like the idea is to have you, who wants to hear from Joe Hozempa, or dare I say, if we ever get a cameo visit from Paul Azadorian, right? But who wants to hear, hey, by the way, so-and-so is launching this at IPCPR. Yeah, great, fascinating. You know what I mean? Like it would sound better for delivery.
Right.
And when you look at the time, so they're going crazy. They're starting to bail out on some of their stuff. I noticed competition-wise, the interviews have been a little shorter in structure as well, because everyone's all scrambling for time, and I don't know why that it focuses on just kind of like a 4-day event. You know what I mean? As opposed to when you have a business, like the 4-day, whatever happens on the 4-day event, technologically, if you happen to be on X show, just show up on X show.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not any more time than what it is, but it's amazing how I spoke to someone today after they gave me the white paper yesterday. It was 8:00 at night. And I'm like, I'm not going to read this on the show. Can you come in for a Skype interview, right? You put you on Skype in like 10 minutes. It would sound better from you. And like, no, we'll just get you post IPCPR, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, fine. It's your loss now, right?
Yeah.
Because post IPC, because we have a show to do and bookings.
You have other people coming in?
We have other people coming in. I mean, next week we have General Cigar. Week after that is July 6th. There will be no Stogie Geeks that week. And then week after that, 13th, we have a sommelier, so to speak, of tequila.
Oh.
I don't know.
Who's that?
I don't.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But
No. I have it in the show notes.
I have a feeling I know who it is, and
because there are some things that I book, because I'm in charge of booking and sponsorship and revenue and all that stuff, as well as hosting. But there are some things that I get from corporate Security Weekly and Stogie Geeks that says you're interviewing this person on this day. I'm like, are you showing up? Well, no, I'm busy that week, right? So I get to do a tequila tasting, which
nice.
When I had which I'm pretty excited about, because when you remember Ephraim from Toro, when you sponsored the Mexican place we went to, and then after that we went to Cigar Masters that day,
sure.
right? So I started pairing back then when I had Cigar Club Radio, which was very tough to do because you can't talk about X brand of tequila on the radio because of FCC. So you can either give a brand but not an address, or a concept like this is a Blanco tequila but not a brand.
Right.
Like, so you had to kind of walk through those guidelines with the FCC. And I started pairing tequila with that. So I pulled up some of my old notes, and I'm going to compare them then with some guy I never met. Like, I never met this guy. He's coming in studio. He's bringing in a bunch of tequila from
Sounds
a
interesting,
vendor,
though.
And then there. And I'm like, okay. And I'm booking no appointments because we do Stogie Geeks at 1 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm freeing up my time. So that'll be in July. And then we have some other stuff towards the end of July.
Be rolling a cot in here so you can take a nap afterwards.
Well, there's a couch. Either that, or I just might go next door and just continue the journey.
Oh, boy.
Hey.
I'll have myself a Bellity moment. True Bellity Friday, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Friday. Thursday. Saturday. Sometimes Wednesday.
Right.
All right, who just piped in there?
What? With what? Oh.
Someone said sometimes Wednesday.
Oh. That was me.
Yeah. I was going to go Monday, but I was laughing. But
Yeah.
It happens.
it does happen.
There's never a dull moment, though.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Great tunes, by the way, though, when I'm traveling with Mike.
I'm a great DJ.
Yeah, he is.
I
just want to make sure he's got the playlist set up before we leave for the long ride.
Yeah. Believe me, if you take timing wise between Cigar Club Radio and Stogie Geeks, and if Mike's rep wasn't so good, I think I would be in that mix and be there with you guys. And that would be a hell of a show. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But his Northeast rep seems to be doing very well.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll stay to Stogie Geeks, right? But so with the trade show, right? What do you like? How do you? I've never been to IBCPR. right? And this year, I was scheduled to go to IPCPR. Stogie Geeks was scheduled to go to IPCPR. And there's also a security conference.
Oh.
So in voting through corporate, we're going to the security conference. So Stogie Geeks will not be at IPCPR.
Have you ever been to a show, Joe?
I've never been to IPCPR.
Wow.
And however, I do get the benefits of IPCPR because I get to pillage through Brian's humidor that he collects from IPCPR.
Yeah.
So I'm usually there on the day he flies home, and I dig through his humidor of stuff, and I'm like, this is good. This is yours. This is mine. This is good, and stuff like that. But we got to go there. We got to go there, and I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's certainly on my bucket list to actually do.
I mean, I like the buzz of the whole show, and I like, walking around the show floor and working the booth. We have a lot to be excited about with the launch of the PLM and to see the response we get from it. So that's all exciting.
Our booth is going to be extremely lively.
That's awesome. That's
I mean, I've never gone into a show more excited about how crowded our booth will be than this show.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Usually, as a small boutique company, you go to the show, you don't really know what to expect. But my company has grown to a point where we have an inside salesperson, and so we're getting a lot of appointments set already, where people are definitely coming to the booth. It's going to be
busy.
Yeah.
Right.
And last year I was in the Casada booth, and that was a great experience. It was a very surreal experience for me because it was busy, obviously, but I did miss the aspect of having my own booth and having people coming just to see me and Barry and our cigars.
Right.
And so we're back to that now, and the feedback going into the show right now, we've got some major retailers that have already set appointments with us, which is pretty unbelievable to me.
New ones too?
One of them is a massive retailer that is will be new to us.
Awesome. Yeah.
And they're definitely coming to the booth. We have an appointment, and they're going to be bringing our stuff in. And this has been a long time in the making, but it is, and we have 3 or 4 of those. So 2 years ago, if we called those retailers, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, no. Well, you might stop by, that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And this year they're setting appointments, which is pretty exciting and pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and
that's a good position to be in.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's good. Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And that's one of the things. It's a testament. To what you've been on the road. You've been on the road here in the Northeast. Then you've expanded. Obviously, like you said, you've gone nationally, and those are all positive experiences.
Building the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not easy, because I have the opportunity to speak to different people throughout the show who are at various stages of their cigar journey from hearing their story, and it's one of those experiences where some of them look forward to IPCPR. From my perspective, we've gotten asked for if we want to book an appointment. If we want to have like the Stogie Geeks in the middle of their booth, broadcasting and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's like one of those things where I think that we should be there, but from also there's also when you look at our space within the cigar field, there's because of technology and Paul as well as other people who started the journey with Stogie Geeks. He was a trendsetter, right?
Right.
And I can say this because last Saturday we were at a security conference, and since then I've met like 3 or 4 people in the pod who do security just like Paul does, and they've decided to start their own podcast because of that. You know what I mean? And then get out there and whatnot. And it's a pretty interesting space how they always ask us, technical questions, how you doing that?
Yeah.
And obviously the technical crew we now film live on location. Whenever we do events there, it gets
Right.
fed back to studio, and it's really neat because besides social media, there's enough space for us as well. And last week on Stogie Geek, took some time out towards the end of the interview, totally unsolicited by me, but we were interviewing Christian Aroa from CLE.
Yep.
And he asked me that, how this podcast thing, like he found it fascinating because obviously he's been on a bunch of podcasts because of who he is and stuff like that. He found it fascinating that, all of our podcasts were able to find our space. And what's really great is it puts us in the same boat as you guys. In other words, as far as, consumers can consume more than one cigar. Right, consumers can consume more than one podcast as well,
Right,
and it's really interesting. And what's really interestingly enough too is how really small our industry is, but how important it is to us, obviously.
Right.
So it was a real good takeaway moment.
Well, I know Mike's alluded to this, and really, it's all about relationship building with the retailers.
Yeah.
Especially as a boutique company, you've got to be in the stores. You've got to be supporting the retailers, and in return, they support us. It's a reciprocal relationship, but it really does work. And if you put the effort into that, and you have a good product, you will build a brand.
Yeah, and you guys do a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, Mike always says, we're not selling cigars, we're building a brand.
I
And
tell that to
really-
the retailers, I tell
Yeah.
the sales reps we have, I said, look, we're not in the business of selling cigars.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
We're in the business of building a brand.
I mean, you've been saying that for
Forever.
all that I've known you.
Yeah,
right?
forever.
And, it's funny because when I interview people, week after week, they're starting to catch on to that. So I guess imitation is the best form of flattery, right? So it's one of those things where they'll say, yeah, I like to make people happy. We're meeting so many nice people in the industry. Let's talk a little industry. Did you hear about the Supreme Court ruling?
Yes.
In regards to online retailers, how do you think it's going to be a game changer? Because I have mixed feelings about the actions of the local brick and mortar store and where they're at. The Supreme Court made a ruling that can really position them now in regards to the online marketing.
Well, it's going to be up to the states to enforce that.
Right.
And they're going to.
Of course, it's more revenue for them.
I mean,
it's money.
And it's
Yep.
going to be, it's a game changer. I mean, that's a major, major ruling by the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Because lower courts have said, no, you can't compel them to do that. So for those watching that don't know
I
what
was
a
going
ruling
there,
is,
but go ahead.
the Supreme Court ruled, I think yesterday or the day before, that states can compel online retailers to charge that local state's taxes when they sell into that state. Up until this ruling, the lower courts have ruled that no, you can't compel that. In fact, there was a famous lawsuit that happened, I think, out of it might have been a Massachusetts lawsuit actually, but I'm not sure. But they tried to collect it, and then they went to court, and the judge said, no, you can't force them to do this. Well, now the Supreme Court, which you can't appeal that one, has said, no, they can compel it. So what that means is the Cigars Internationals of the world, the JR Cigars, the big online retailers now can be compelled by each individual state to charge the same taxes that state charges when you go to a retail shop, a brick and mortar.
For all the
retail
out-of-state stuff.
for anything that company sells into that state.
Into that state, right.
So it's just like for the Stogie Geeks listener who's either listening to this on audio and might not understand where the conversation is going, or the video component. It's just like they were to walk into the brick and mortar itself,
Right.
purchase
Buy a
the
cigar.
cigar, and have to be susceptible to those taxes.
Taxes.
Now,
of
I
that
think
state.
On point of
I think
purchase,
this is
yeah.
a game changer on several different levels, but one level is it levels the tax playing field. So in Massachusetts, you have a 40% cigar tax. When a retailer buys one of our cigars, and let's say they're into that cigar for $5 to us, and the retail is $10, and they're now going to have to pay $2 in excise tax to the
Right.
state of Massachusetts. So they're really into that cigar for $7. which means that now, in order for them to survive, they have to charge more than MSRP. And there's the neighboring state to the north is New Hampshire. There's no tax there. They have to compete with that. It's hard. And that will still be because New Hampshire's taxes are New Hampshire's taxes. But the online companies were charging no taxes. And so it's going to make a situation where competing with online is going to be more even.
Right.
It's not going to be completely even, by the way, but it's going to be more even. It's also going to expose cigar companies that favor the online companies versus brick and mortars a lot more than they're exposed now. Because there was always the storyline that, look, the reason Cigars International companies would go out and say, the reason CI can do that or JR or any of these online companies can do what they do is because of the taxes. Well, that's gone.
Yes.
So now when CI and the rest of them do what they do with pricing, it's going to be, okay, either CI is taking a smaller margin or they're getting deals that we're not getting. Which one is it?
Right. There's
no other explanation.
Right.
Now.
It's one or the other, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of issues for cigar companies who, I'm not going to mention any, but who have been giving deals to the online companies that a brick and mortars couldn't possibly get no matter how big they were.
Right.
That will now have to say, all right, we did the deals.
Yeah.
And we're sorry.
Yep.
I've been always a big proponent of, I'm a brick and mortar company. I will sell to online companies, and I'm a capitalist. I believe in free markets. I believe that online companies should be able to do what they do. They could decide how to price their products however they want, but I would not sell to an online company if it was going to put my brick and mortars out of business. Because, frankly, if the brick and mortars cease to exist because they can't compete, the cigar industry dies.
Yeah.
Dies. Why? Nobody picks up their first cigar and smokes it because they ordered it online.
Correct.
Yeah, it's in a
They
brick and
have to
mortar
walk
store.
into a brick and mortar store and say, I'm going to try a cigar. Or they have to go with a friend of theirs that buys cigars or hangs out at Churchill's or the Underground or one of these great shops around the country, and their friend says, "Here, try this cigar," and they're not going to go on to xyz.com and order cigars for the first time. They have to try the cigar because it's a lifestyle, because they're hanging out with a friend or a relative or celebrating something. If the brick and mortar companies die, the industry dies. So I've always said, and I will continue to say, I will never do something with an online company that will hurt the brick and mortars.
Yeah.
It just won't happen. And because I love my brick and mortars, and I consider them partners and friends and family in some cases, and we have to make sure that they thrive.
Well, it's your core business. I mean, that's who you're working with.
All right, I agree. I look at it. I agree with you wholeheartedly with that, because it is going to expose all the online retailers getting the better deals, or
yes, go ahead.
Sure, right? I get it. Or I'm really hoping that the brick and mortar changes its philosophy of being local, because my experience, it's only here in the Northeast, and it's beyond Rhode Island. There are some retailers in the Northeast, like up in New Hampshire, who do very well online because they've embraced online.
Sure.
And as someone who's...
But that's going to hurt them too, and I feel for those guys, but it is what it is. I mean, they're going to have to follow the same... They're going to have to charge the taxes now too.
Right.
Right.
But what about the shop that says, we're not going online because of the margins? Well, the Supreme Court ruling took away that argument, the tax argument. They've taken that away.
So what you're saying is they're not taking advantage of the opportunity.
Yes. So what I strongly feel is going to happen is that the ones who are online now will just comply.
Right.
And the bigger giants that are online now getting the deals will comply. And what I think that shouldn't happen, but I really strongly feel it would, is that local shop is not going to say, hey, this is our opportunity to really expand our market and to beyond our local town, or, especially when you go down to South Florida and, a lot of people complain here in the Northeast, well, there's a lot of cigar shops, right? I mean, literally in South Florida, there's 3 on every street.
Yeah, that's Florida.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And I've had the opportunity to spend some time in South Florida from a non-tourist perspective, see family, stay in a home, do that there. And it's amazing when you drive down that A1A, which is awesome if you're not in a hurry, right? Right?
Yeah, it's great if you like to drive slowly.
But no, you're driving down and you say, okay, I'm going to peel off in Pompano Beach, or I'm going to peel off in Fort Lauderdale, or I'm going to peel off in, you can take it all the way to Miami, which fascinating town. But anyway, right?
In a lot of ways.
I mean, but
I love Miami.
Joe,
I love Miami, right?
Joe, there are a lot of retailers out there that don't even utilize social media.
I know.
I know.
I know.
You're talking about changing the mindset of these old school retailers, and then you have retailers that are much more advanced in the way they do business, in taking advantage of social media and how they can build market share outside of the store itself. So that's the challenge.
Look, I give a lot of credit to some of the retailers that you're talking about in New Hampshire that took what was going on from a tax perspective in Massachusetts and used it to their advantage to become massive retailers, a couple of which do enormous business online and shipping and with mail order and all that stuff. I think that's great. And by the way, before the Supreme Court ruling, every retailer had that same opportunity, right? There's not a retailer in America that couldn't have started an online retail business.
Right.
So the ones that did it and made it successful, I give them great kudos. I think they looked at the situation and said, I'm going to compete and I'm going to do it, and a few of them have done it massively successfully. So I have great respect for that. And that business, that part of their business is going to be hurt now. It is. When they ship it out of state, it's going to be hurt. But still, I wish the regulators in every state could figure out that, in Massachusetts, when you have a 40% tobacco tax, and in New Hampshire you have a 0% tobacco tax, people in Massachusetts will drive 15, 25, 35 an hour. They'll drive however many minutes they have to save that 40%. And so it's very simple. People aren't going to smoke less cigars. They're just going to buy them elsewhere if a state is so prohibitive with their tax situation.
Or go to Rhode Island where there's just a cap.
50-cent cap.
50-cent cap. So, it's...
We had a Rhode Island adjustment on the budget as well to go from 50 to 80% cap. That happened. We had a meeting.
Yeah, I was there.
We were there.
So
and
that was,
I don't want to say anything.
Oh, so I did see you in May.
Were you there?
I was there, and everybody was there.
Right.
Huh?
But I think I don't want to say anything. We'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, I
happen to have heard a few things, so I think I want to say anything.
Yeah,
let's move on.
I think it's going to stay the same. You know what I mean? And
that's my prediction as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to stay the same. It's going to be 50-cent cap. Connecticut, neighboring state, has a 50-cent cap. Massachusetts,
they're trying to raise theirs too
to $1, I think, right?
$1.
Yeah.
And if they do that, they're going to get less tax revenue.
Right.
They are. They're going to get more per cigar they sell. They're just going to sell a lot less cigars.
Yeah. And
it just encourages people to look to other.
Sure, because consumers, sometimes companies don't. They don't take consumer participation or consumer behavior, and really find out what their consumer is capable of, and in the tobacco, their consumer is capable of hopping in a car and driving 2 hours away,
or picking up the phone,
or picking up a phone and scanning a card, and then having it delivered.
They don't understand the lost opportunity. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now the picking up the phone or going on the internet goes away with the Supreme Court ruling, but you can still drive 15 minutes over the border of a neighboring state and get
correct
and walk in, and you're going to pay that state's taxes.
Yeah, it's kind of wacky. And when I was there looking at it from just the state of Rhode Island, going from 50 to 80, it was just from the other stuff that was combined with the OTB, other tobacco products.
Right.
It was a money grab. And I think states need to, individual states and the General Assembly as well as the FDA, because we are going there. Even though you and I have been having this conversation for 3.5 years now, right? It's one of those things where they look at pockets of where they think that they can grab money. But what the General Assembly is not taking it is the consumer behavior aspect of it.
The money's not there.
Listen, I was at that meeting in Rhode Island at the State House, and it was very clear to me. First off, that meeting went so long we had to leave because we had to be somewhere. But it's clear to me that the folks that are actually putting these regulations and policies into place have no idea what the effect is going to be.
Yeah.
The bottom line is people in California put in a 65% tobacco tax less than a year ago. It was earlier. It was about a year ago, almost a year ago. And people in California don't smoke less cigars. They just buy them in Utah, or they go online, or they buy through. They go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And there are some major companies that I've talked to and I know that have said, look, our business directly to retailers in California has fallen by a large percentage. But our business to retailers in neighboring states and online companies has grown by at least the same percentage. You think that's a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. I promise you this, I'm going to smoke the same number of cigars.
You're buying
no
them
matter
elsewhere.
what.
Yeah.
I'm just going to figure out where I can buy them for the best price.
Right.
And if you make it so that a particular state, the reason why, you think about where the biggest, most successful retailers in the country are. They're in New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, and Florida. Why?
Because the tax
zero
laws,
tobacco tax.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Texas. Texas, which has essentially a zero tobacco tax.
It's like a penny on a stick.
They have essentially a zero cigar tax. I shouldn't say tobacco tax. But, that's why they're so successful. And why is Massachusetts suffering in terms of cigar retailers?
40% tax.
40% tax.
Yeah.
I was on a conference call offline with a company who's looking, and they were asking me. Now the guy was from another country, and he's like, "Where are you located?" I'm like, "We're located in Rhode Island." He found it on the map, right? We had a go-to meeting,
right?
And he's like, "Okay." I go, "Take me to all the retailers." He's like, "Why?" He kind of asked me from a consumer perspective, basically the same question. He goes, "All of our shops that we're in are on the border of Rhode Island and Connecticut, and there's like 2 in Mass." And I told him, and he's
That's
like,
why?
he's like, "That's crazy." He goes, "Yeah, we know." And when we look to put it in shops, the biggest argument, like they're not going to go blitz Mass because it's not going to be important for them. You know what I mean? As far as market share, they'll go to where the hot spots are,
right?
And you have to follow the consumer behavior, and like you said, half of them don't even consume the product to even make an educated decision about the product.
And the biggest problem as an industry we have is that we get lumped in with every other tobacco product.
Right.
That's a major problem.
That is a big problem.
There's a huge difference between this tobacco product and a Marlboro.
Mm-hmm.
Or Copenhagen, or you name it. There's a huge, huge, huge difference.
Yep.
This cigar has nothing added to it. It's a plant.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's cured with heat and water.
Mm-hmm.
This is as certified organic can get.
Right.
And the same people that are trying to make it easier and easier to smoke marijuana, which, by the way, I don't care if I don't really care if marijuana is legalized. It doesn't bother me. But you cannot have the same person sit in a room and say we should legalize marijuana and make it harder to smoke a cigar, a premium cigar.
Right.
I'm not talking about the chopped up, machine made, infused with all this stuff. I'm talking about hand rolled premium cigars. This is literally a plant.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Right.
It's not a cigarette. It's not chewing tobacco. It's not any of that.
Right.
And it needs to be separated from the regulations that go on the other parts of the tobacco industry.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, in my world, people of adult age should be able to decide what they do for themselves.
Sure.
So I don't even think that the other thing should be regulated that much. But if you're going to regulate them and you're going to try to lump this in with the other tobacco products, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And the FDA needs to know that, and all the politicians need to know that. It's ridiculous. And by the way, the very politicians that are trying to make it difficult for companies to sell this product and for you to consume it, smoke it.
Right.
I can tell you, I won't say names, but I have smoked cigars right next to some of the biggest politicians in the country.
Sure.
And the biggest politicians in this state.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
I used to sell cigars to quite a few of them on Tremont Street downtown
because
Boston that were behind the excise tax when they first put it into place.
Yeah,
you know?
it truly is a lifestyle. We have to finish this because we have Saturdays and Sundays off.
Well, I mean, I'm here to help.
Yeah, so pass that down. We can finish that there.
Can we win?
Just give it. There you go. Keep going.
Easy.
Come on.
Joe,
There you go. I'll take the rest. There you go. Perfect.
You got an eyedropper's worth.
So I decided to pair this because of the dryness.
Of the wine?
The in my opinion,
right,
the driest
cigar.
of the San Andreas wrapper. I decided to pair this.
And by the way, you're a wine guy. I mean, that's your thing.
Yes,
really?
Paul has tasked me with putting together a wine podcast, and
Yeah, well, why not start?
I'm like, can I get some co-host on Stogie Geeks, Mr. Historian?
How many?
Like,
yeah.
Can you show up to Stogie Geeks every once in a while?
How many podcasts can one guy do? I mean, let's break the record.
He's at 8, and we're moving downstairs too. We're expanding. That empty spot.
I don't know if you told me that or someone else told me that, but I heard that.
That under construction. That's going on downstairs.
Really?
Yeah, it's
nice.
It's we're at.
Listen, when I first came in here, the studio was over there.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Over Havana.
No, it was next door.
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
it?
Yep.
Like right on the other side of this wall. Mm-hmm. And now you have this studio.
Yep. And we still get email, despite Stogie Geeks listener.
In fact, I think the Ass Pressed episode happened on the other side of this wall.
Oh, really?
It was on the other side?
It was. It was definitely on the other side of the wall.
We still get email. People email me at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. Contrary to belief that a Stogie Geeks listener decided to say that I beg for emails. I don't beg for emails, FYI. I engage with my audience. There you go. This is my shtick. Right?
That said, send him your email.
He already did. He's like, he sends me this email. Like, here's your obligatory email. I was like, dude, really? Like, if I wanted to smoke cigars with an ass, I'd dig up a couple of people I know. Right. This background here for the set was actually leftover from the build out from when Havana started. So
no kidding.
Yeah. So it's actual.
Now that you say that, I recognize.
Because
it.
because people say, do some of the older listeners say, do you guys still film at the Havana Club? I said, well, we're located right next door. If you're ever in town, come by for a tour of the studio. It will take you about 20 minutes to meet everyone,
right,
and to go through because with I can't speak for any other podcast, but for this, we have a production crew of 4 who produced the show, and there's a lot more technological stuff that goes into
getting it
post the show. Yeah. Right now, it's on live. And then it'll be edited, and then by Monday it gets distributed by some proprietary software, and it goes off and stuff like that, and into various countries, and it's pretty crazy. You know what I mean? It's a bigger operation than when you think. But we are moving downstairs. I don't think we're moving this studio downstairs, but there will be
Security Weekly will be down there.
And, there will be some more stuff there,
and the wine show and.
The wine show, I mean, I have ironically, my brother's friend who he graduated with became a sommelier in Italy. So we're really trying to, get that company to give him permission.
When you do the wine show.
You're in?
Well, I mean, yeah. That's not what I was going to say, but yes, I am. Of
course.
You got to get Michael Herklotz on from Nat Sherman. He's a wine sommelier.
Awesome.
There are very few people I personally know that know more about wine than Michael Herklotz.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. We have some.
And he will get some world-renowned. He has access to world-renowned wine sommeliers, but Michael is a wine sommelier.
Really?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's good to know because we have some dialogue with Nat Sherman for the show for 2019, and we've been figuring out like a restructuring of where this podcast is going.
Right.
For there. But I need the correct spelling of that name offline so that I can contact them for that, because he tasked me with that.
I'll contact Michael for you first. How's that?
That's awesome. Yeah, you want to be on episode 1?
If Michael Herklotz is on the show, I will be on that show. He's like Don Wiggins. If Michael Herklotz on the show, listen. Michael's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah,
I consider him family. I've known him for many, many years, even before I got in the cigar business. And if he's on the show, I would be honored to be on with him.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, he's tasked me with a bunch of stuff that the list gets longer and longer as the weeks progress, for sure. But a wine show I think would be fascinating. If you watch any of the other podcasts that Paul does, they're all in the security field. The other 7, but he's always smoking a stogie. So I assume that the wine podcast would have.
Let me explain something to you. I'm smoking a cigar on the wine podcast. I don't know what Paul's rules are.
Paul,
but let me tell you right now.
Yeah.
Listen, I am smoking a cigar on that. If I'm on that show, I'm smoking a cigar.
Oh yeah. If I'm
telling you.
If I'm hosting that show,
you're smoking
a cigar too. Ever tell you about my first security conference I went to?
No.
Oh, it was crazy. We went to the first security conference, right? And we went up there, and it was an overnight. And I've gone 23 hours without smoking a cigar. Now, pre-Stogie Geeks, has nothing to do with Stogie Geeks, pre-Cigar Club Radio, my personal philosophy has always been, you need to take some time out of your day. I don't care if it's a half hour, and whatever your shtick is, right? Go to the gym,
smoke a cigar,
decompress,
hang out. I like to go to smoke a cigar first, then go to the gym, right?
I believe the cigar part, but go ahead.
yeah. Whatever works. Yeah.
Hey, I boxed 5 times this week, right?
Really?
Yes.
Do 10 next week.
No,
I'm kidding.
So that's part of your day. You try to do that. Take a little time
every day. I try to take and I explain. Ever since, my God, I had to been like, I was probably just freshman in college at that time, so 18. And and I'm like, you need to take that time out to have your version of unwind. You can read a book, have a glass of wine. Like,
how I met this guy?
To reset.
Every day,
you would go to the shop.
I would go to his family shop at the Ehrlich store. There was, when you walk into that store, there was like a little sort of round table of chairs where everyone argued about everything in the world. Yeah. I didn't want to be a part of that.
Mike went all the way to the back.
I would go all the way back. There was one chair. It was a MacDonald chair.
Most
comfortable chair ever.
Yeah.
I would sit in that one chair, and they would be arguing up front, and I'd smoke one cigar, and I'd go back to my office.
And my office was right there.
Next to it.
And I used to peek out like this, and there he'd be.
Yeah.
And that's how we started our friendship, believe it or not.
Every day. Yeah. That was my decompression. I would leave the finance world is a bit of a hectic world.
Sure.
I would leave. I would spend that 45 minutes, smoke a cigar, grab my lunch, go back to the office, and that was it. And that got me ready for the afternoon.
Yeah, you actually need that. You actually need that, and it's whatever your stick is. It doesn't have to be a cigar. You need that, and it's amazing how many people like. Well, you find time to do that. I'm like, I'm not talking 5-6 hours.
Well, I think you need to make the time.
You need to make the time to
you have to have a balance
to actually do that, and it's amazing. So that's how I started, right? I when I was 2 years before I graduated college, I was with Corporate Xerox, right, and obviously, being on the road as a sales guy, I would have, appointment gets canceled, I get porched. It's a sales term. When they leave you at the front door.
Right.
Oh, porched. They canceled the appointment. Oh, thanks for giving me a call. You know what I mean? Oh, well, we couldn't flash an email.
But there's your opportunity to smoke a cigar, right?
Right. So I was like, hey, I'm supposed to be out of the meeting. Let me smoke a cigar and take time out and try to squeeze it in. And then I started, meeting some super awesome people in the field.
Right.
And or after work, I would go have a cigar and just kind of decompress and enjoy. And it's amazing how people don't take that time out to actually do that. And they don't understand like the aspects. Now I have friends, we're 43 years old and they're like, oh, I got this going on medically, I got that,
You can't find the time.
I'm like, you got to find the time. Well, it's because you don't have kids. But just so you know, September 3rd, I'm going to be a dad. Right? So I'm going to, I don't know if you heard that news yet. See, when you're going, I get
can't.
bored, right?
Yeah.
No, I think you told me that at Churchill's last time I saw
No,
you.
you
Yeah.
actually told me. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at Churchill's.
Yeah,
at the
That's
so
store.
awesome.
Yeah, so
Stuff's going to change, my friend.
Your life.
I'm still gonna find the time. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you have children.
I say
Three of them. I
right?
have two.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
you have to figure
I
that
say
out.
we have a show with JoJo's better half on, and talk about whether JoJo's going to find the time.
Yeah. My she's a general when she comes in. I call her. I give her a call. Hey, how's it going? What are you doing? Oh, I'm just checking in with headquarters. How's it going?
Headquarters.
Oh,
yeah.
Right. You always gotta check in with headquarters.
Yeah. True.
For sure. But
Well, that's great news, Joe. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a boy.
Oh, wonderful.
Nice.
It's a boy.
Is he going to be a JoJo Jr.?
No, the middle name will be Joseph.
What's the first name going to be?
We have a couple names.
Let's break news right
Let's
now.
hear it.
Let's talk about it.
We have a couple names in the running.
Listen, Mike's a great name.
Right.
I just say. I mean,
Right.
it was very popular back in the day. It's gotten less popular. Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back.
For years, it was at the top of the list.
I know.
Yeah.
It will
Yeah.
have
Jack and Mike.
I had very unoriginal parents. Yes.
It will have Joseph as the middle name because that's actually her father's name and her brother's name too.
Yeah, there's relevance to
Yeah,
the.
so it will be Joseph for the middle name. We're looking. The names in the running are not in any particular order.
Hey, this
Let's
is
hear it.
news.
This actually is news. The names in the running are Connor.
All right.
So it'll be Connor Joseph.
Yeah.
Nice name.
Caden
Caden. Okay.
Joseph.
Got it. Yeah.
Or Trent Joseph. Those are the ones that have been sticking around. If you want to throw a name in the hat,
Mike.
Mike,
Joseph.
I promise I will
There's
check in
actually a
with
tremendous
headquarters.
guy that owns a cigar shop in Texas.
I
called-
really
his
like
name
the
is
sound
Michael
of Connor
Joseph.
Connor
Just saying.
Joseph.
Yeah, Connor has been sticking around. Matter of fact, we had a baby appointment today at 7:30.
Strong name.
Right? And I was like, hey, Connor, she said, quit calling him a name because, I mean, we're in it now. We're
Yeah,
seven
well,
and a
it's
half.
coming- it's coming down to crunch time.
Yeah,
Right.
we're in it. I'm.
Now, have we designed a room? What's going on
Yep,
here?
I got a room. Well, I have you know me. I'm pretty super organized.
Here's
you know?
one, and don't feel pressure to answer because we're here. What's the cigar you're smoking when your baby's born?
That's I thought about that.
Yeah.
And I don't have. I know I'm getting like a special thing.
Right.
I don't. I haven't. I thought about where that's going. That's on my list of things to do.
Yeah. So that's a good politically correct answer. I like that. You didn't even give an answer. That's
Yeah.
good. No.
I know there's a couple cigars that I'm gonna smoke anyway.
No, I want to know what you're smoking. The first cigar you smoke when your son is born.
Vendors, you can
Vendors.
Send it. No one should get offended if they don't pick.
No, I
particular
guarantee
cigar,
you.
but
I
I'm
guarantee
saying
you,
that-
knowing from where I come on.
What's your favorite cigar? What's the one you want to celebrate your son's birth with? It doesn't,
favorites? Oh, now you really put me on the
All
spot.
right, don't say favorite. Which one are you going to smoke when your son's born?
Well, because of the rules, I can't do it there. Did you ever see the?
No, you can't smoke in a
You
hospital. I
can't
gotcha.
smoke. Did you ever see the somebody put on my Facebook post? There were three guys in a waiting room, right? And it's like, oh, congratulations.
JoJo's changing the subject
Right,
right now. but go ahead.
congratulations, it's a boy, right? And he's all excited, so he passes out a cigar to the other two
saw
guys.
that.
And then the other
Old
guy
show.
goes, oh, congratulations, it's a girl. And then all of a sudden, the lady goes, there's no more babies. The nurse comes out. Who are you here? He goes, I'm just here to get cigars, right?
Yeah, I saw that. That's a great clip. I've seen that.
But
So that was a nice job. But
do you
when I
want to
was
do
kid-
like a MLB exclusive?
Listen,
Joe.
I'm not asking for that.
Joe, what-
I'm asking for that.
If you want that done, I will get you an
Joe,
MLB
whatever you
exclusive.
smoke, I'm sure it's going to be worthy of the occasion. So.
I'm no,
He's trying to let
Barry.
you off
He's
the
always
hook.
trying to like be referee. Don't be a referee. You want?
I mean, all right, then what are you
By
smoking?
the way,
I don't know
Yeah,
what I'm
there you
smoking
go.
yet.
There you go.
I didn't get there yet. I believe me. We've picked out theme for the room.
I think it could be David P. Ehrlich Tremont, to be honest with you, but no.
yeah. See, I wasn't going there, but
I was going with if you get some. Can you get me a special blend? Can you? How can you?
I will have a blend for you.
Oh yeah.
In September.
Then the done deal. Like no questions.
Done.
Done
I will have
deal.
it done.
And you know something? It would be an honor for that because
I will do that.
because
that's not what I was going for.
Right.
That's what I was
I'll
going
get
for.
that done.
That's what I was going for. Right?
Very
In
nice.
fact, I won't tell you what it is, but I have one for you.
Right.
I will have one for you in September.
Okay. You don't have to band it.
No, it won't
I
be-
know
Yeah,
banding.
listen,
boxing
trust me,
presentation is
trust me,
half the cost
I'm
of the
not ordering
stick.
40,000 bands for your son's birth.
No, you're not going to
I
say
love you,
this is the Connor Joseph, and then we name the kid something else. It's a big mess.
No, but we'll get something done.
There you go.
Then you know something. Then I will stop looking.
Done. You'll have a special blend.
Done deal, because it would be awesome for you've helped you've taken a liberty. You sponsored my show, which forever grateful for Brian of Churchill's, Corey Brothers, and MLB Cigar Ventures for being my first sponsors.
We had some fun times on that show.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. And then it's led to here.
Right.
Just Stogie Geeks.
Right.
And then from being with Stogie Geeks over the past year, I don't know if you watch Stogie Geeks, but I was actually hired here full time. So, and I'm now working in the security space.
Right.
There, and it's pretty crazy. Like that's another world. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, wow. It's very interesting, and where Paul wants to go, not only with Stogie Geeks from an organizational standpoint, but where he wants to go with his other podcast and with the new ones that are potentially on the horizon. It's pretty cool, and the technology has been a huge factor for us to just look at it from a worldly perspective.
Right.
Like I was actually shocked as someone, career-wise, resume, grew up here in the province, Metro, worked at corporate Xerox. I was Waltham, Route 128 corridor in Rhode Island, sales-wise, doing that there.
Trapello Road?
We were on Winter Street.
Winter Street.
Winter Street.
Trapello Road.
And
that's where Bentley is. Almost.
But they had a headquarters right up there,
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah, and we were there, and now, like, I was shocked that, not really shocked, but, the first deal I ever closed on the security side, they were a company out of Tel Aviv. And, which I found out was an actual geographical place and not just a cigar bar in the province. Yeah, I went there, right?
Wow.
So, but it's just kind of interesting, and the way things have just kind of
Exciting times for you.
come together. But Mike, you've always been a near and dear friend. And
I agree. I appreciate you.
You're
a good friend.
You took the time out to do that.
Yeah.
Even though you don't know the FCC hoops I had to jump to get MLB Cigar Ventures.
Oh, I'm sure. Which is, by the way, ridiculous.
Sure, but that's another, that was another world at another time.
Hey, FCC, FDA, kids don't smoke this product. Doesn't happen.
Right. They're out there rocking the backwoods and Cherry Middleton.
They're buying the
Backwards.
cheapest thing they can find. They're
Blunts.
unrolling it, and then they're putting in marijuana, which you guys are perfectly fine with, apparently. But
FDA, right quick. What do you? They're still kicking that can, right? It's just it's like
the box and marketing label warning stuff officially goes into effect in August.
yes.
That means our box is going to be really ugly, and going forward, unless they can get rid of it, we're going to have to change completely the box presentation. It's all it's nonsense. It's just nonsense. The FDA is leaning on a piece of legislation from 2008 or 9 to say that they can regulate premium cigars. But in that piece of legislation, it basically says that in order for them to regulate a tobacco product or smoking product, they have to show that underage smoking is an issue with that product. They then funded a study in conjunction with the New England Journal of Medicine that concluded about a year and a half ago. And the results of that study are that underage folks do not smoke premium hand-rolled cigars. Literally, their own funded study said that that's not an issue with this product.
Contradicts their belief
Which actually
altogether.
means that they can't regulate this. For the life of me, I don't know why our lawsuits as an industry don't use that as the main argument, but it hasn't. We went after First Amendment and this, that, and the other, and look, I know that CRA and IPCPR are doing a lot of stuff and spending a lot of money, but to me, their own study just rendered it illegal for them to regulate our product. I'm not a lawyer, but they need to realize that this product does not fall under the same regulatory authority as other tobacco products. It just doesn't. And they should stop it.
And they absolutely should stop it.
Yeah. And they're going to hurt a lot of small businesses here in America and internationally if they don't realize that, this is different. And again, the very political faction that is saying this has to be regulated is trying to make marijuana legal. I don't have a problem with marijuana being legal, but you cannot make the argument that marijuana should be legal and this should be regulated heavily.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah. It's crazy. You going to check in with us post IPCPR?
Sure.
All right. Oh, are you going to take off and statistically proven? I'll see you right around.
Yeah, I'll see you, October.
All right.
Your son's 1 month birthday.
Yeah, he's due September 3rd, which is Labor Day.
Wow.
Everyone else is grilling and chilling, and I'm going to be, come on, let's do this. We got hamburgers to cook or something.
Spicy food. The week's leading up spicy food.
Yeah?
The baby will be born before Labor Day.
Really?
Spicy foods.
Spicy food.
She eats a lot of spicy food.
There you go.
That's.
She might be born next week then, but she might be born next week. But
it's crazy. It's so fascinating. It's my firstborn son, and
that's exciting.
It's such a journey within itself. But we have a theme.
The journey hasn't started yet, my friend.
I have friends. I was like, man, I'm so tired. I only got 6.5 hours sleep, and they're like, dude, really? You are so in trouble. I'm such a sleeper.
That whole saying that I slept like a baby last night. That doesn't make any sense to me because they wake up every 2 hours.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. Well,
wait till you have the second one.
Yeah. We want to.
Then it gets even more challenging.
Yeah, we want to do 2 because they.
Yeah.
It's crazy. 2. I'm like.
Yeah. There's a couple million.
Gotta have a
sibling. Go ahead. That's good. Perfect.
I run some numbers and I'm like, yeah.
Paul, he needs a raise.
Paul, yeah.
Right.
Paul's got 3 boys. He's just as crazy. With that, it's crazy. But Barry, thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
Thank you for telling us your story.
Yeah.
Michael,
always a pleasure.
Thank you for coming. We are taking off, and we're going right over to Churchill's right after this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Something like that.
Yeah, we're going over to Churchill's and have some drinks, and he's got a pig roast and a launch of your product.
Should be a long day.
If you're in the Providence area, you want to come to this pig roast, come by. I'm sure there's plenty of room.
Yeah, stop by. It'll be a good time for sure.
It's going to be a lot of people, a lot of food, some drinks, and some cigars.
Yep.
And
even if you don't want food, stop by and see Mike and Barry. Be good to
excellent.
You can meet them and check in with us post IPCPR.
We will.
We always love a good Bellady story of post IPCPR.